Hi, everybody. Welcome to Boomx Beauty Beat. I've got the beautiful, wonderful Sabeena Bubber here with me today, and she has done a lot with her life. She's a supercharged superwoman, and if you guys want to hear a little more about her experiences, she's a mortgage broker, single mom. She's rocking this life. I mean, working hard, but we're rocking it. And I just really want to welcome her to Boomx. And thanks for being here, Sabeena.
Thank you so much for having me, Laura. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you.
No, it's great to have you. Now, I've done a little bit of research. I've done a little bit of reading. You are not just a mortgage broker. You're an award-winning mortgage broker. You have done a ridiculous amount of business. Like we're tipping the $1 billion in loans amount right now, which is just insane to me. And but you know what? I watched, you've done a unicorn video. I watched that, and I just got so drawn into like your story and how you. So I'm gonna go back again with you. I know you've told this before, but I want to kind of talk about that a little bit, because so much of what you have to say I related to. And you grew up in Regina, right? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm an Alberta girl, so I know.
Oh, see, very strong.
Very strong. Yeah. And tell me, let's go back first before we go into all your accomplishments, and tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up there and your life in the beginning.
So I showed up in Saskatchewan when I was 4 years old, immigrated from London, England, of all places, not India, as you would expect. But my parents had lived in England for 9 years, and that's where I ended up. They wanted to move to Canada, and we ended up in Saskatchewan, of all places. I think my mom was a little surprised with the snow and the environment and that kind of thing. But her goal was that she wanted to be home with her kids every day for lunch, and so she was. For me, growing up, probably a little different, being the only brown girl at school. And I think I was one of maybe in the entire, elementary school, kindergarten to grade 8, I think I was one of 2 brown kids in the entire school. So it was definitely a different environment for me. And, not that I had anything to compare it to, because I didn't go to school anywhere else. So yeah. It was, I felt
you got bullied, right? You got bullied.
Yeah, I did.
And so did I. I was a chubby Italian kid with curly hair. I had very similar, like bullied, pushed down in the snow, like all that stuff. What happened to you? Did you just get picked? Like,
I had to see my sister after school every day. So my sister was 6 years older than me. So she was in a much different, she was in the older kid wing of the school. So I would go into that side of the school, and the older kids would physically pick on me and that kind of thing. I was lucky my sister was very defensive, and she would protect me if she was there. And then also in my wing of the school, in the lower grades, I was just called all sorts of names and catcalled and everything like that. And it was quite hard. And I have to say, the one thing that like I really did deny myself of my culture, because I thought that if I did everything I could to fit in to that environment, that maybe I would just blend in if I just pretended to be as white as possible, to use maybe not use the term white as possible, but just try and be as as Canadian as possible or whatever, and just fit in as much as I could. And so that's what I tried to do.
It's hard to believe how cruel kids can be, but they surely can. Like, they can be so cruel. So then you got through that somehow. And then now, how's my Italian father is, a certain way. How was your family with you? You obviously have that kind of mindset where you want to, run your own business and all of that. That didn't, always sit. So my dad wanted me to sew and cook and all that stuff, and that wasn't my specialty. I was more like he was in real estate, so I'd want to go to the open houses all the time in my little wool suits and stuff like that. Tell me about your upbringing and mentality as far as being a woman and business and all that.
So it's interesting, because I come from Indian parents. So you would expect that Indian parents would have traditional values, in the sense that, they wouldn't want me to work. My dad, however, my dad was extraordinary and very modern thinker for his time. So I have to give a lot of credit to him for that. He he basically said, you know, I've got 2 girls and I want to raise these girls to be able to survive on their own without a man. And so I want them to be educated and I want them to do well with their lives and that kind of thing. So he did have that emphasis that we do well in school and everything like that.
Yeah.
I was that kid who not only, I didn't do great in school. I was not a book learner. So I felt growing up like I wasn't smart enough because I couldn't meet that standard of needing to meet the grades that I needed to get into university and do well and become a doctor or a lawyer or something along those lines. My mom, also a very good role model. In a time when I was growing up, almost all the mothers were staying at home. They weren't working. And my mom was one of the few that was working a clerical job at the time. And she got up every day. She would make us breakfast. She would get dressed. She always looked put together. She did her hair and makeup every day, always wore nice clothes, put herself together, went to work, came home for lunch, put lunch on the table for us, came home, had dinner on the table for us. She was doing both. So she, at that time, was what I'm only realizing now, cutting edge, because she was doing it all. She was taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, and working full time at the same time. Wow. So when people ask, how did I do it? I ask the same thing of my mom.
Yeah, you watched her.
Because I watched her do it. So that's how I do it, because that's what I learned. Yeah. And then for my dad, it was really just proving that I was smart enough in the end. I did go on to get my bachelor's degree in business, but I didn't want to go on to do my master's. And I think my dad was pretty disappointed. And I said to him, I said, it's not that the school system is really just not for me. I can't, it doesn't make me happy. And I said, I'm going to be successful. I don't know how, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to work my way there, and just to watch, I will do it.
And now how old were you when you got married? Because you got married
too young, like 22.
22. So you got married.
And we were together from the time I met him when I was 16, 17.
What? Wow.
And we were together for 27 years.
Holy Hannah. So, I mean, you guys are obviously so young. You have 2 daughters, right?
2 daughters, 17 and 15.
So what was marriage what you thought it would be? What was it like for you?
It wasn't a bad marriage. When we get married young, we have ideals of how we think things are going to be and how people are going to change. Some of us change and some don't. And yeah, it was one of those things. I always had these dreams for myself, and I was lucky that I was able to pursue my dreams while I was married, and start this career and do that thing. It was tough at times. It was tough a lot of times, but there were some good times too.
Yeah, for sure. And so I was reading on your bio that after 27 years, you decided that you were going to go it single. And so how long has it been that you've been single now?
It depends on who you ask. The date of separation was.
Roundabout.
Let's say 4 years.
4 years.
So,
yeah.
I mean, we were separated in the home for a period of time, but I wasn't exactly acting like I was single. I was recovering from surgery, and I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So there were reasons why we stayed longer than we did. But at the end of the day, it's been about 4 years. It was a challenging divorce. It seemed to go on forever. It took 2 years after we separated to finalize the divorce, and then we also went to mediation again last year. So I feel like I'm finally free after 4 years. Yeah.
So have you gone on any dates yet, or?
I've gone on some dates. Yeah, I don't. My focus is on my kids right now.
It's hard, isn't it? Good Lord. I know. I was a matchmaker for about a minute when I was it was like about 10 years ago. I was working for a big matchmaking company just for a little break from what I was doing. Yeah. And so I still have that in me. I'm always thinking, there's a lot of women I'm meeting that are awfully good catches. Why aren't any of these men, looking them up? I think it's hard for men when women are so strong too, like not alpha, but, got it together and work hard. It's maybe a bit intimidating.
I think there are men out there for women like us.
Yes.
I think it's for me, there was a lot of I've had a lot of, after 27 years, And I was in one relationship for 27 years.
Right.
So for me, I have the dating age of a 17-year-old. I've never dated before. And I had a lot of personal, like inner feelings that I had to work through, and negative beliefs that I needed to shed myself of before I was ready to move into looking for a relationship or anything like that. So dating is one thing, but seeking a relationship when you're still working through the stuff that you had in your marriage, like they say that for every 5 years you're together, it takes a year for you to really put it behind you.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know those.
Yeah. So I mean, it's for those. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong for those that have relationships in a shorter period of time, but for me, I definitely needed the time to figure out who I am, what I'm about, what I want for myself, what I want for my kids, and what I want for life, and what I see for myself. So becoming a better me, or becoming the person that I think that the perfect man is looking for, making sure that I fit that list that he's writing as much as I'm writing that list. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And I think the reason I'm talking about this so much today is I find it quite inspirational to be in something like for so long, and then to have the courage to exit, and to have the courage to reinvent yourself, what you want, what you are, all of these things. And I think there's so many women who can relate, and they need to hear from, both of us, and be able to talk about it, and be able to tell yourself it's okay to want the best out of yourself, out of your life, because we only know we have one life, and it's not over till it's over, and you can always kind of remake your life and redesign it in any way that you need. And if you're not getting what you need out of your life, don't ever be afraid to start over or do all of that.
And I've heard, there was the debate of staying for the kids, or whether to leave, and whether leaving while the kids were still at home is a very selfish move or not. And so I've never really talked about that, but I'd kind of like to speak to that a little bit, because I know it sounds silly, but I did a little bit of research before I split up, and I actually polled people. So were you a child of divorce, and when did your parents split up, and how did that affect you?
Wow.
And so I talked to so many people during that time period before we actually separated. It was 1.5 years. So I talked to a lot of people, and I didn't necessarily tell them what was going on in my life. I just, kind of ran a poll, and the conversations that I had with people was phenomenal. And the people that I know whose parents separated after they left the home found it more challenging as adults to handle that, because they felt they had grown up in a lie. And they had not adjusted to living in 2 separate homes and to 2 different parents, because they were no longer under a parent's roof. So they found it harder to adjust. And they said that, and for younger children are easier to adapt, because they start to lose the memory of their parents being together. But the time for us, my youngest was in grade 5 and my oldest was in grade 8. Very hard time for my oldest, because she was going into high school, going into a new time, and then all of a sudden adjusting to 2 different homes and that kind of thing. And my youngest one is mama's baby, and didn't want to be away from me for more than 5 minutes, let alone for 5 or 6 days at a time.
Yeah.
So very, very, definitely a very, pardon me, a very challenging time for them. But as I see them now growing up, and they're 15 and 17 now, they've really come into their own. They've learned to adapt. And I think they'll be more adaptable adults, because they've adapted to 2 different personalities. They look at us and they go, you guys are nothing alike. How can you stay together for that long?
Yeah.
And they understand it, because they've had the opportunity to live with both of us, and they have the opportunity to love both of us too.
Yeah.
And not have to make apologies for loving either one of us or anything like that. It's just, I think that as adults, they will take the best of both parents and still take that into adulthood for themselves.
Well, can I just say you're just such a unique person for doing a poll to begin with? I mean, you're so thorough. Who would think of something like that? I'm like, that is unbelievable.
It may have appeared to be an impulsive decision, but it was well thought out.
Now, you, just before we go into the mortgage stuff, I want to talk about the other really unique things about you. You've taken, is it neuro-linguistic programming and also hypnotherapy? Can you tell just a little bit about that?
Yeah, I became a practitioner coach in neuro-linguistic NLP, neuro-linguistic programming and timeline therapy in 2016. And it was like maybe 2 months after I separated from my husband. And we, or should I say my husband.
Yeah, so cute.
And so I knew like it was a time when the kids were going to be with him anyways. And it was a 7-day course. And I'm like, I need something to bring myself out of this funk that has been so hard to get through. Like just the 2 years prior had been so difficult. And I was in just such a hard place. I was so ashamed of splitting up. I wasn't running around going, oh, we separated. It was like, oh, I just like wanted to crawl under a rock. Aww. So I thought I would go do this course. And it was one of the best things I ever did. It really, really did help me to deal with a lot of my major negative emotions that I had built underneath. And I actually continue to coach with the NLP coaches that I worked with in 2016. I started again with them in hybrid coaching last year, and it's been just a phenomenal journey. And I highly recommend it to anybody that really wants to take their mindset and their business or their life, or they don't even know where they're going in life. It's a great way to get yourself to the next level.
Can you just briefly explain a little what it is in case people don't know?
It's basically there's, oh gosh, how do I wrap it up? Because it's a 7-day like intensive course, but it's basically like you're working some work with the unconscious mind and bringing it conscious, and also helping you to rid yourself of major negative emotions like fear, sadness, anger, those kind of things. Find the source of them, help to rid yourself of them. Also to master your mindset in terms of how you start your day, how you show up, what your goals are, and how to create the future that you want for yourself.
Ooh. So, I mean, you just took what you were feeling and took action, took a course. I think what I'm saying is that for women who are feeling stuck, just start doing something. Like take a course, do something, get yourself, out of your own head and out of your own feelings, something that can be a positive step. Maybe it's something you do as a career. Maybe it's something you just do as a new skill to learn. You also did the hypnotherapy. Did you actually get hypnotized yourself before?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
How was that experience?
So before I took the course, I had done some hypnosis. I had mentioned earlier I had a surgery in I think it was 2015.
Yeah.
And prior to the surgery, I went to a very good friend of mine here in West Van who is skilled in hypnotherapy, and she helped me with some hypnosis prior to my surgery. The prognosis for what the surgery was going to involve was going to be quite invasive, and it would have been 2 years of surgeries and invasive. Like I would have been very sick for a long time. Using the hypnotherapy, I was able to work with my body in a way, mind-body connection, so to speak. And the outcome of my surgery was significantly better. My recovery time was still like 8 months, but I only needed 1 surgery instead of 2 or 3. Which was amazing.
So basically it allowed you to get a mind-body connection. That's basically how it impacted you. And who would have thunk it? Like who would have thought hypnotherapy can help you through a surgery experience like that?
Hypnotherapy can help you through so many things. And,
wow.
And it is really, I don't use it often, but when I do it with purpose.
Can pretty much anybody get hypnotized, you think? Or is it...
You have to be open to it.
Okay.
And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be hypnotized because I don't want to quack like a duck. But if you don't want to quack like a duck, you're not going to quack like a duck. So if you see those, hypnosis shows and whatever, the people that are putting the show on and quacking like a duck and doing all that stuff, that's because they wanted to do that.
Yes.
It's not because somebody did something against their will.
Yeah.
If it's, if it's your will to make a change, then it will happen.
Wow. Okay, so let's dive into mortgages. Wow.
Okay.
So you started like was it 2005? You started, wait, is that the right
Actually,
year?
it's this will be my 20th year
Oh.
as a mortgage broker. So I started as a mortgage specialist in 2001, and then I became an independent broker in 2004, 2005, and around there.
Were you thinking to yourself, okay, this looks like a good solid career, I could make good money at it, or what was it that attracted you to this?
Well, at that time, like in 20 years ago, nobody really knew what mortgage brokers were. Nobody
Yeah.
really knew about mortgage specialists or anything like that. It was just starting. But I had already been working in finance for about 5 years prior to that. And I had been working as an underwriter for a financial company as well. So I had an understanding of how the broker industry worked at that point. And I had the knowledge on applications and that kind of thing, but also some sales skills that have been taught to me along the way in my very early days outside of university. And at the time, honestly, Laura, it was a little voice that was like, this job sounds interesting because I won't be stuck to a desk, and I would be out there networking and bringing in applications, and I think I could learn how to do this. And I didn't really, it was like a little voice that said, you should explore this. And so I actually reached out to somebody I knew who worked at RBC and said, do you know about this job, what it involves? And can you refer me to somebody? So I got referred, the person who referred me was from Manitoba. So he referred me to a sales specialist here, and I ended up interviewing for the job and getting it with not as much experience as they thought I had, but I did a pretty good job of convincing him that I was going to do well. And yeah, so in my first year at RBC, I think I had, so I when I started RBC, I had no, I had just moved to Vancouver a year prior, so I had no network here. And that was the thing that they didn't know about me, is that I didn't know anybody in Vancouver. And so they were hoping that I would bring in people from my network, but I had 5 people that I knew here at the time. So I went out there and I attended networking groups. It basically was the cold call queen. I went out and cold called everybody, and I made it work. I set a directive that I was going to reach out to so many people a day, and I was going to somehow make it work. So in the first 6 months, I did not do that great. But by year, I think it was in my first full year that I was working there, he set a goal for me. He said, okay, Sabeena, I think you should try and do, what's your goal for this year? And I said, $17 million in mortgages. And he's like, that's a little aggressive. He's like, I think you need to go like 12 million, because it's really your first year since we started the training. So how about 12? And I said, okay, you can set it at 12. And in my head, I'm like, it's 17.
17.
I did 43.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I won the sales award. I was pregnant for most of it. I had morning sickness for the entire pregnancy, so all 9 months. I won the sales award beginning of it was the middle of November. They had the sales conference, and I won the sales award, which is the big cruise and everything that they give away. I won that sales award, and they were like, "Wow, this is amazing! Like, this is your first year." And you were like, I was 5th in the province, I think, and 3rd in Vancouver in terms of numbers. And then like 2 weeks later, I had a baby. So they're like, "You're not going on the cruise," and I'm like, "I'm not going on the cruise. I just had a baby." And like, and then before she was a year old, and before I could take that cruise, I resigned and I went off to be a broker, because I knew I wanted another baby, and I knew I wanted something better for my kids. And just based on what I was seeing in terms of the bank limiting client relationships, because you do a mortgage and that client then is dealing with the branch, that I couldn't provide long-term advice and long-term service to that client. So I found that I was then just transactional, and I wasn't relationship. And for me, it's about being part of people's lives and being that person they always come back to. And asking me for advice because I have a lot of knowledge and I've accumulated a lot of knowledge, especially over the last 20 years. So the thing I love most is the relationships that I've established in this business and helping them to achieve their dreams.
See, I was just going to ask you that next, is like, what is the difference between, just going to your bank or going through you? And you've just said it so wonderfully, is that in what you're doing now, you're able to develop the relationships. It's all about relationships. And, have you had to continue with the cold calling, or can you just work your networks now?
I don't need to cold call anymore. I've got 20 years of clients built up. I get a large source of my business is from my clients who refer me their friends and family and their kids and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest myths, like if you want to talk about the difference between banks and brokers, is that brokers charge fees and we focus on because we're paid by the institutions that we place your mortgage with. So we're actually one of the last good things in life that are free because we can provide independent advice. We're paid by whoever you put the mortgage with, and we're paid the same thing no matter who it is. So it doesn't matter who I place it with. But what I'm doing is I'm taking your goals and helping you decide what's the best option for you.
Yeah.
Based on what your future goals are, and helping you to maybe adapt mortgage products as your life changes. So that's one of the things that that's a big difference, and ongoing advice. When you're dealing with a bank, the staff turnover is higher. The branch staff don't necessarily have the education piece on variable or fixed and understanding what's happening economically and what the forecasts are, and reading all the articles and everything like that, because they're selling 20 different products at the same time.
So how has I've heard that the real estate market's been just as good or better since COVID. Is that for real? How's that been?
Yeah, it's our hottest market. I would say we're heading into like 2015 when it was super, super hot. 2014, 2015, it was super hot. So we're definitely heading towards a hot spring market, and it's been, I'd say it was ramping up to be busy before COVID. I would say November, December 2019, it got really busy. And then it was super busy January, February last year. And then March happened and we're like, oh gosh, we only had 4 months of it being busy and now it's going to be slowing down. And then we had like the craziest year.
So what's the logic behind this making it so much busier? I don't understand that completely.
So for me, a simplistic view would be record interest rates, lower, like borrowing money is cheaper than anything. So even if you borrowed money and invested that money, you're going to make a return on that money. You're going to make a profit on that. So there's that. Also, people have been at home a lot more. People are working at home. People don't have the space to work at home because they've been going to offices. So they need bigger spaces. A lot of my clients have said, some of them have been like, oh, I can't do this and I can't work at home with my partner in 500 square feet. I need to get something bigger. And I never thought I was going to buy. However, now that I'm looking at it, it just makes so much more sense. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to be in a condo anymore. I don't want to be living around all these people. I want to have a house. I want to have land. And a lot of people are not spending as much money as they were before. So they have the cash flow that they didn't have before. So that's kind of where a lot of that is coming from, I think.
That makes so much sense.
Priorities have changed, right? And a lot of selling and buying going on. So there's a lot of movement.
A lot of movement, and now your home really is your castle because you have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So now everybody's looking at everything in their house. They're probably renovating. They're doing all kinds of stuff because they have to stay there. So you're kind of stuck looking at it. And if you don't like where you are, then I could totally see how you're like, oh my gosh, you need a change. So who is your typical customer? Is it not first-time buyers normally, or who do you normally work with if you've got somebody watching right now and they're kind of, because you're so beautiful, you're so put together, I don't want them to feel too intimidated to call, you know what I mean?
Thanks. Everybody is my client.
Okay.
So first-time home buyer, I love working with first-time home buyers because it's a big education piece and it's fun, it's exciting. It's the excitement of moving for the first time and trying to understand so much. And there's so much information out there on the internet, and none of it is very clear. So in terms of what you're looking for. So I'm very much in work with a first-time buyer. I work with separating and divorcing clients. I work with high net worth clients. I work with high luxury buyers as well, who are buying very high-end properties. So you name it. I've got mortgage sizes in the $100,000, $200,000 all the way up to the multi-million-dollar mortgages. I do them all. So,
oh, wow.
My expertise level has just been, I don't turn people away, because I feel like it doesn't matter if you're a first-time buyer or an experienced buyer. Often, if you're going to your own bank, you won't get the knowledge that you would get here. And if you're working with me, you'll get the knowledge you need to help figure out what's best for you. And so mine is not discriminatory in terms of, oh, you're doing this, so I'm not going to work with you. It's more, my goal in my day when I start in the morning is that I want to make a difference in somebody's life. So the size of the mortgage or the type of the mortgage doesn't matter. Yeah. Am I making a difference to somebody? Yes, then I'm going to do it. And if I'm not helping somebody and I'm not making a difference, then that's when I realize that client may not be for me.
So I just want people to understand like that, because when you think of mortgage broker, sometimes a person can think, oh, money sharky, like that. I've had that, people tell me that when they meet you, they're going to see your heart, and that's not what it's all about. And you are really there to guide people, so much so that you actually, are a person that is going to start something if someone's in need. And if it's okay if I talk a little bit about what you did with 100 brokers, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So you guys, if you're watching this and you're like, is she the right person for me? You have to listen to this. Okay, so you had a friend who went through something, and this is how this began, right? Can you tell me a little bit of that? Yeah, a little bit.
So my friend, single, self-employed mother, she sent her daughter along with her ex-husband. Her daughter was going to spend the weekend with her ex-husband, and a few hours later, the RCMP showed up at her door and said they had both drowned in a tragic accident off Gambier Island. So she had lost her only child, who was 6 years old, and was 100% her world. And so she was like, the first thing I heard, she was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be able to work. I can't deal with this. And it was just so much for her to deal with. Funeral expenses, rent, everything, you name it. And it was heavily covered in the media, but he had other children from another marriage too. So any estate he had would have gone to them. So there wouldn't have been anything left over for her to cover her costs. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to start a GoFundMe page so at least we can get some of this stuff covered for her. So I started a GoFundMe page, and I blasted it out onto social media. And my web guy, Jackson, and I called him and I said, do you know how to do this GoFundMe thing? Because it was like a while back. And he's like, no, that's not really my area. So we started talking, and he's like, what about, 100 brokers? We started talking about charitable organizations like 100 Men Who Give a Damn, and there's actually, and it started in the U.S. with 100 Black men.
Okay.
I think it was in, I don't remember, one of the southern states, and they would get together, and it was their way of gathering as a community, but also doing good for others. So they would put in $100 to show up at this networking event, and they would donate, and there was a maximum of 100 people that could attend in that case, and they would donate $10,000 to a charity or an organization that would do a presentation, and it was a great way for them to do a business networking thing. And I'm like, I don't need to do a business networking thing, but I just wanted to bring attention to this. So with when I was doing this GoFundMe page, I started, sharing it in Facebook and that kind of thing. We raised $35,000 inside of a few weeks, and $7,000 of that came from mortgage brokers across Canada. And I was like, wow, that's insane. Like, people that didn't know my friend were willing to give money out of their pockets to help somebody they didn't know, just because of the story that they heard and how sad it was. And I thought, you know what, if that's happening, if people are willing to do that for me, who else has a friend that we might be able to help that could tell, maybe has a story similar? Usually when it comes to kids, we always just feel so heartbroken. So I thought, you know what, let's try this. So we started a website, and we started just telling people about it verbally or on social media. And we're now 4 years later since we started. We've supported 24 causes. We've given away almost $160,000. We have helped people in our own mortgage community that have fallen on hard times, due to illness, various things that have happened to people in our own industry that have needed financial support. And we're now 174 members, and we have an Eastern chapter and a Western chapter. And so what we do is we nominate families or charities that we think could use our support, and we give as much money away as we can.
Does it not blow your mind how you have, like, from the very get-go, your strength in your gut, Sabeena, like you just make a decision, and it's such a beautiful quality to have. It's like a fire in your belly that you just let roar, and when it goes, it just goes. And you've so many gifts, like, wow. I mean, it blows my mind. There's a lot.
Don't get me wrong. I have doubted myself a few times on this one. It is a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes I carry the torch by myself, and it's hard work. And sometimes I've been like, oh, I can't do it anymore. Like, and again, going back to that, I don't know if I feel like I'm making a difference. And so maybe it's not for me. And then I've had along the way, when I feel that, it's almost like the people I need to help me all of a sudden just show up. And so when I had challenges with collecting payments in the beginning, because we didn't have like a Stripe system or anything where we could collect payments. And then somebody stepped forward and helped us with that. So we have an automated payment system now. And now I've got a great team of people helping me, and we do what we can in between running our businesses. And yeah,
you kind of put it out to the universe, and the universe sort of responded to you and kind of put all these little magical things in place to make it doable. And I think the strong intention is the biggest need. And then once you have that and you use that intention into action, things weirdly have a way of taking care of themselves. So it's like a little faith, so it's really cool that you've done that. I'm just going to double check and see. Now, you're in the Vancouver area. Do you cover just Vancouver, or where are you covering for your business side?
I just helped move one of the people I went to high school with back to Saskatchewan. So I guess I cover a lot more than just BC.
Okay, so you can do that. You can broker anywhere, really.
I have clients in Alberta, Saskatchewan. I tend mostly to stick in BC. The 90% of my clients are in BC, but I have clients Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So do you still have to do, like, to get, to add to clients and things like that? Do you have networking events that you're doing online and stuff, or not really? Do you have anything going?
This last year, I've just been working with my existing database, and then I've been working with realtors that have heard about me through the grapevine, or actually a lot of clients refer their realtors to me, and then I've been working to their realtors as well. And then I've also been doing a separation and divorce network as well for women going through separating and divorce. And so there's a group we call the Divorce Circle. So we do seminars every quarter, helping people, women who are thinking about separating or divorcing, helping them to get information they need on the process and the things they need to know about it. So
I've never even heard of this. It's amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then I do work with family lawyers as well. So through my own separation and divorce, I already knew people that were family lawyers, but I learned a lot about the separation, like a lot of the legal stuff in the background. So being a self-employed business person, I've tried to encourage people to reach out before they negotiate their contracts, their separation agreements, to understand how it's going to affect their housing needs. Because I think what happens is we're like, okay, I'm separated now. Here's my separation agreement. I need to go buy a house. And it's like, well, actually, because you negotiate it this way, you're not going to be able to get as much as you wanted. And so I think I want people to be educated on how it affects your finances, and how it's important to talk to your accountant, your financial advisor, and your mortgage broker before you decide to get separated. So all these things are important.
That bit of guidance can change everything. So obviously I'm going to be linking everything about you below, so you guys can reach out to Sabeena, and super approachable, as you guys can all see. And I'm just seeing, as we're on that topic, I know you're a workaholic, but what do you do for fun, or what do you watch? What's your guilty pleasure on TV that you watch?
I like to travel. So one of the things that I did not do while I was married was we didn't travel a lot. So I've been striking off a lot of things on my bucket list until COVID happened, of course.
Yeah.
Including taking my kids and my mom to India in 2019 for 3 weeks. So bucket list dream for me to take my kids to the Taj Mahal and do those things. So traveling the world is something that I definitely is my passion, and it's something I still strive to do once this is all over. What do I do for fun around town? I've actually, COVID has been a great thing for me in some ways, in that I have now established a home gym. I can't justify sitting at this desk for so long without doing some workouts. So I hired a virtual coach, and she trains with me and my youngest 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And because my youngest is fairly athletic, it was something that helped her to get through being in when they weren't going to school and stuff like that. So it's really helped her a lot, and it's helped to bring us close together, which I love.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so being outside, I'm a fair weather girl, so it's got to be sunny if you're going to find me outside. I'm not going to lie.
When it's in Vancouver, it's like the minute the sun peeks through, you're bolting for
I'm out of here. Yeah, I need to get the light. But yeah, and I forget, there was another question you had.
Guilty pleasure, what you watch on TV.
I don't have a lot of time for TV. So
I knew you were going to say that.
I accumulate lists of series that I'm going to watch. I just started watching Yellowstone, which I like. What is my guilt? There's one that there's some that actually there's some kind of hybrid Indian English series that I've kind of gotten into. Like Made in Heaven, which talks about the Indian it's about Indian matchmakers, but it's not a reality series, it's a drama. There was one season and I absolutely loved it. And the other one is 4 Shots, which is on Amazon Prime, and it's basically like Sex in the City, but there's 4 Indian women, and they're all drop dead gorgeous, and 4 completely different women, and it's just a fun show. And so it kind of took me back to my Sex in the City days, which I kind of miss having that kind of like a female camaraderie kind of show. So yeah, and I was a big fan of Suits in the day, I'd say maybe in a month I maybe sit down and watch maybe 2-3 hours of TV. That's all I got time for.
Whew. You're a go-get-it girl. I gotta say that. What are your, other than travel, do you have any other goals that you're shining for right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's business goals that I have. There's family goals. So maybe like when my kids are moving off into university, we're talking about it now, whereas like I'm in a position where with COVID and everybody moving to working virtually, that I could probably go with them wherever they go. And that sounds kind of needy, but in the same respect, I think it would be fun just to figure that out and see what that looks like. They're not planning on going far, so it shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, probably some relationship goals at some point, and that kind of thing. And I do like doing the NLP still. I'm still doing that with the Success Training Company down in the US, and I'm really enjoying that as well. So continuing to do that work and yeah, I like to learn and absorb information and just constantly try and be better.
Yeah, well, you're definitely been an inspiration to me today. Thank you so, so much. Just hang tough when we're going to say goodbye to everyone else, but I have to just chat with you for a minute longer. But I can't thank you enough for being here, Sabeena. It's been wonderful. I think I covered pretty much everything, your whole life story almost, but not quite. But thank you so much for taking the time. You're a real inspiration. You
so
really
much fun.
are. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, bye, everybody. Take care.